The AI arms race isn't a two-player match anymore, and everyone's suddenly playing a completely different game. Just 2 years ago, the story was simple and clear-cut. Either Anthropic or OpenAI would dominate the world of artificial intelligence. Today, Google's shipping state-of-the-art models, Microsoft's integrating AI into everything you use daily, Meta's training models in the open for everyone to build on, DeepSeek's gotten faster and cheaper overnight, and Mistral's building sovereign AI in Europe. Each one isn't even trying to beat the others at their own game, they're all creating entirely different playbooks. This massive change from a binary battle between two startups to a fragmented multi-front war is reshaping everything. How fast innovation actually moves, how much it costs, who wins, what you get access to, and most importantly, whether you even notice it happening. The old narrative said the winner would be whoever released the smartest model in a lab, but the real battle isn't decided by one lab's breakthrough anymore. It's decided by who builds the most useful, integrated AI in the places you actually live: your phone, your email, your office software, your data center. And that's a completely different fight than everyone was predicting. And that's just the beginning. To understand why everyone got fixated on this two-player storyline, you've got to go back to 2022 and 2023. ChatGPT exploded onto the scene, and OpenAI seemed unstoppable. They had the first working large language model that could actually talk to regular people. At the same time, Anthropic was the scrappy ex-OpenAI team doing research that looked equally impressive. So the narrative was born: two brilliant teams. One winner, winner takes all. The media loved it because it's simple, David versus Goliath, or two equals racing to the finish line. And it felt true at the time. Between November 2022 and mid-2023, it really did look like one of those two companies would eat the entire market for AI. Everything hinged on their next model releases. But here's what most coverage gets wrong. The tech industry moves faster than narratives do. By 2024, Google woke up. Microsoft woke up. Meta realized they'd been sleeping. And suddenly, these massive trillion-dollar companies that had been in machine learning for over a decade weren't starting from zero, they were starting from the top. A startup moving fast is impressive, but a company with Google's infrastructure, Microsoft's distribution, or Meta's research budget moving fast is a completely different problem. And that's the moment the two-player game became eight-player chaos. So what does this eight-player game actually look like? Google's approach is total integration. Their Gemini model is embedded directly into Gmail, Google Workspace, Android, and Search. You don't need to learn a new tool or subscription because it's already waiting for you inside products you use daily. Microsoft's play is similarly aggressive. They've spent tens of billions of dollars acquiring OpenAI stakes and embedding Copilot into Office, Windows, and Azure cloud infrastructure. That means if you're using Excel or Word or Teams, AI is just available. Then there's Meta, who's releasing models like Llama into open source. Their bet is that if everyone has access to powerful models, developers will build on Meta's infrastructure, and Meta wins through volume and ecosystem effects. Meanwhile, DeepSeek came from nowhere with R1, a model that outperformed industry expectations and costs a fraction of what competitors charge to run. That forced everyone else to suddenly care about efficiency, not just capability. Mistral's operating in Europe, building models that comply with the European Union's stricter AI regulations. And there's Anthropic and OpenAI, still there, still innovating. OpenAI's releasing new models regularly, and Anthropic's focused on alignment and safety. Every single approach assumes a different winner's circle. And here's where it gets interesting. Concrete proof of this change is in what's shipping right now. Google just rolled out Gemini extensions in Gmail. You can summarize entire email conversations, pull insights, generate responses. It's AI, but you might not even notice it because it's just there. Microsoft's doing the same with Copilot in Office. A financial analyst can ask their spreadsheet a question in English and get answers from complex formulas without writing any code. Neither company launched a flashy new AI product. They quietly made AI just work in the tools you already have. OpenAI and Anthropic, meanwhile, are focusing on raw model capability, newer, smarter, more capable foundation models that others build on top of. DeepSeek's R1 model proves a different thesis: cheaper inference, faster responses, smaller model files that run on less powerful hardware. That matters if you're trying to deploy AI to millions of devices or edge cases where computing power is limited. Mistral's building to European compliance standards out of the box, which means their models are legally ready for regulated industries that other providers might struggle with. And Meta's Llama is now the most widely deployed open-source model among developers who want ownership and control. Each company is solving for a completely different problem. Here's the twist nobody expected. The market isn't consolidating around one winner. It's splintering into specialized niches where different companies own different pieces. If you zoom out, the companies are making fundamentally different bets that aren't directly competing. Big tech is betting on integration and ubiquity. If AI is embedded into every tool you use, you'll never escape their ecosystem and you'll adopt it passively. Startups like OpenAI and Anthropic are betting on being the smartest in the room. If their model is so capable that everyone else depends on it, they win the foundation model race. Meta's betting on the network effect. If everyone uses and builds on open-source Llama, Meta becomes the essential infrastructure underneath everything. DeepSeek's betting on efficiency and cost. If they can build excellent models for a tenth of the cost, the entire economics of AI change dramatically. Mistral's betting on sovereignty. Companies that need to comply with European regulations become captive customers for their compliant models. These aren't competing for the same prize. They're competing in different markets with different rules and different winners. A startup moving fast is competing with Microsoft's engineering scale and unlimited resources. They can't win that head-to-head fight. But a startup that focuses on raw capability might own the research space where they are building the foundation models everyone else uses. Or they might focus on a specific industry, healthcare, finance, legal, where their specialized model destroys generic competition. The fragmentation isn't a bug in the AI market. The fragmentation of the AI market has three immediate consequences that nobody expected just 2 years ago. First, innovation is accelerating instead of consolidating. When one company dominates, there's a risk they'd slow down after winning. They've already won, so why race? Instead, every player is forced to innovate constantly because they are competing in different dimensions. Google's making AI integration frictionless, so OpenAI has to make their models smarter. DeepSeek makes them cheaper, so everyone else has to improve efficiency. The competition isn't one-dimensional. It's happening across capability, cost, integration, privacy, speed, and openness. That means consumers and developers get choice. A startup building a healthcare app can choose open-source Llama for control, or Anthropic's model for safety assurances, or a fine-tuned Microsoft model if they are already in the Azure ecosystem. 5 years ago, you'd have 2 or 3 choices. Now you've got 8 credible paths forward, each with real trade-offs. Second consequence, the power dynamic shifted. Startups can't out-Google Google or out-Microsoft Microsoft at sheer scale, but they can find a wedge, a specific capability, a price point, a regulatory compliance posture that makes them indispensable. That means startups still win, but they win by being strategic, not inevitable. Third, standards are no longer controlled by one company, and this is where things get surprising. So how do you actually navigate this landscape? Here's the mental model. Stop thinking of AI as one market. Think of it as 5 different competitions happening simultaneously, each with different winners. First, the foundation model competition. Who builds the smartest baseline model? That's OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, DeepSeek, and Mistral, all competing for capability leadership. Second, the platform competition. Who embeds AI into the tools people already use? That's Microsoft, Google, and increasingly Apple competing for integration dominance. Third, the developer ecosystem competition. Who owns the infrastructure engineers build on? That's Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and Meta's open-source stack competing for mindshare. Fourth, the specialized vertical competition. Who dominates a specific industry? That's dozens of startups competing, each betting on one vertical they can own completely. Fifth, the safety and compliance competition. Who can build AI that passes regulatory and ethical checkpoints? That's Anthropic and Mistral, and increasingly all of them competing for trust. When you're evaluating an AI company's chances, Ask which competitions they're actually in. OpenAI is fighting all five, but that makes them vulnerable because they can't win everywhere. A startup focusing on one vertical might beat everyone in their lane. A company focused purely on integration will own their sector, but never own the research frontier. Understanding these 5 dimensions means you're not watching one race. You're watching 5 completely different races with overlapping players. Here's what this means for you. The age of the binary AI narrative is dead. The story isn't Anthropic versus OpenAI anymore. The story is that the entire technology industry is racing to reinvent itself around AI, and each company has a different theory about what wins. And you get to benefit from that fragmentation. If you're a developer, you've got choice: open source, API-based, integrated, specialized. If you're a company trying to adopt AI, you can pick the approach that fits your constraints and budget. If you're an investor, you know that a bunch of different companies can all be winners if they are competing in different dimensions. The next year is about watching which of these bets proves correct. Google might be right that integration wins and consumers prefer frictionless AI inside existing tools. Microsoft might be right that enterprise adoption means embedding AI into Office and Azure. Meta might be right that open source captures developers. DeepSeek and Mistral might be right that cost and efficiency reshape the entire economics. Or Anthropic and OpenAI might both be right that raw capability still dominates everything. Here's the spoiler: probably multiple companies are right, and they'll all succeed in different ways. That's the real story. The AI race isn't a destination, it's becoming the background infrastructure of everything we do. Watch for which companies move into new categories, new devices, new industries, new use cases. That's where real power accumulates. Follow for daily AI news because this landscape is changing faster than any single company can adapt.